The slow burn in this series, so good. What is up, you guys? Welcome back or welcome to my YouTube channel. Am I about a week late to uploading this video? Absolutely, but better late than never. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in February. But first, your girl needs a drink, so I'm going to be yapping away. Yummy. I'm obsessed with polar waters, honestly. So I only read 2.5 books in the month of February, but honestly, we were just traveling a lot and had a lot going on, so I only got through 2.5 books. And yes, I think it's important to say I read 2.5. I didn't just read 2, I read half of the third one that I'm reading. So today we're going to be talking about the second, third, and fourth book in the Plated Prisoner series. I have been pretty obsessed with this series so far. Honestly, I feel like it really helped me cure my Onyx Storm hangover. So I've been loving this series so far, but I read the second, third, and half of the fourth book so far, which I am loving. Also, fair warning, this video will be containing spoilers. It's hard not to. It's hard to talk about books and not talk about a little bit of the spoilers in it, so just fair warning. I definitely said this in my last What I Read This Month video, but I knew absolutely nothing about this series before I picked it up, which has been a lot of fun, honestly, because I feel like if I know too much about a series or seen too many videos on it, then I can either figure out what happens, or people like to post TikToks without any spoiler warnings, so it winds up getting ruined for me. But I follow a lot of course, like book talk and book YouTube and this and that, and a lot of the people that I follow who like all the same books as me loved this series, so convinced me to pick up the whole entire series, and I'm so glad I did. But first, we're going to be talking about Glint, the second book in the Plated Prisoner series. This one was a pretty quick read for me. I got through this one in a few days, honestly, but Aurens in this book, I am obsessed with her. Aurens is kidnapped in this book by Rip, the hot, sexy commander, and taken to Fourth Kingdom. Midas in this book still sucks. He's just the worst, honestly, and somehow Aurens is still there for him. Like she's still kind of on his side, and you just want to like take her and shake and be like, girlfriend, he is horrible. He is so grossly obsessed with her, but we figure out why in this book. And once that clicks, I'm like, oh, okay, well I'm not saying it makes sense that he's like obsessed with her as creepy, like captive way, but you're kind of like, okay, I could see why he had her in a cage for so long. But she finally starts questioning him. Starts questioning him in this book, and you're like, thank God, thank you. This guy sucks. Like, please, just open your eyes a little bit. But Aurens actually has a lot of good revelations in this book, just about power and loyalty and about who the true villain is. Spoiler, it's not Rip, it is obviously Midas. Midas in this book is literally throwing a toddler temper tantrum because he needs Aurens back in his control, and spoiler alert, not because he's in love with her, it's because he literally needs her, which we will get to that. Aurens finally starts realizing that she's been brainwashed by Midas for years, and finally she realizes being in a literal cage is not true love. Shocking, girlfriend, that's shocking. But thank God she finally got to the revelation in this book and not like so far into the series, because I couldn't do it. I was like, come on, like please, this man sucks. Aurens was expecting Rip's army to be like broody and scary and torture her and sexually assault them, sadly, and this and that, and she was just greeted with such sarcasm and loyalty and friendship, and she was just like, wait, hold on, why are these people treating me better than Midas's court, who I have been with for over 10 years? Rip in this book, yes please, I love him, and I love the slow burn and just like the sexual tension in this book. It was really good. I'm glad like it wasn't just like straight to the point, but the slow burn in this series, so good. He's hot, he's powerful, and secretly Fae. I was so pleasantly surprised that they had Fae in this book, or like in this series. I was not expecting that at all after reading the first book. Once we got to that, I was like, wait a second. ACOTAR vibes? Fae? so good. I was like, oh, love this twist. His army is just so fiercely loyal, which was just 1,000 steps up from Midas's just pathetic crew that he has around him. We got a lot of hints about a bigger Fae world in this book, which I was like, yes, but also I was like, I want to know. But obviously it's a second book in a 6-book series, so there's a lot more world building to get to. Huge twist at the end of this book. We figure out that Aurens is actually the one with the golden touch. It's not Midas, which obviously that's why he kept her in a cage for years, and because this man literally has no power at all. So in this series, you have to have some type of power to be a royal, a king, a queen, whatever, and he literally has none. So he brainwashed this poor girl into thinking that he loved her, and he very clearly did not. He was very creepily obsessed with her. And Aurens the one with the golden touch, so obviously he needed her. We figure out at the end of this book that she doesn't just have the ability to turn things to gold, she can literally manipulate the gold, which is really cool. Because honestly, I was sitting there thinking for a little while, I'm like, well, okay, like that's cool and all, but like what can you do with just turning everything to gold? Like of course you could be rich and this and that, but like that's not really as badass and cool in my opinion. But when she started to manipulate it and use it to her advantage, I was like, oh, girl, yes. Midas is the biggest gaslighter you could possibly imagine in this book. Just like everything he was saying just gave me the ick. Obviously in this book, he's the villain and Aurens just has all of the upper hand and all of the power, and I love it. Sadly, at the end of this book, she does leave Rip's army behind, which I was like, how do we leave the hot, morally gray man? But that's fine. We'll just go back into this creepy man's golden cage. But at the end of this book, we finally get a full understanding of Aurens' power, because she said, no, sir, I am not getting back in that cage. You can write off. Can I flip on YouTube? F you, and just unleashed her full power on him, which I was like, girl, slay. Like, we love it. We do figure out a pretty big secret about Rip at the end of this book, and the cliffhanger, I was like, okay, I'm so happy that I immediately had Gleam to pick up, because I needed answers. I needed answers immediately. But my final thoughts on this book, Aurens finally opened her eyes in this book and woke up and just got like a full understanding for how Midas was actually treating her the past 10 years, and he was not obviously in love with her. Midas is fully on unborrowed time, and his lies are just starting to completely unravel. Rip and Aurens' slow burn in this book is so good. I mean, obviously I want more, but it is fun seeing like the slow character development in their relationship. I just need to find, like, once I was done finishing this book, I was like, I need to finally see Aurens break free. So I'm glad I immediately had Gleam to pick up. Gleam is book 3 in the Plated Prisoner series, and sadly Aurens is back under Midas's horrible clutches, but she's not the same helpless girl that she was, and he's like, oh shit, how am I gonna manipulate her to keep doing everything that I need to stay king? And Rip is on a mission to get this girl back, which we love. The slow burn in this book is burning hot. It was so good. And Midas gets exposed in the best way possible. Midas is absolutely desperate to keep Aurens under control, and just the sweet talking in this book was just like so gross. And thank God she's finally starting to question it. She's like, how have I not seen through this all of these years? Like, this is not the way that Rip has been treating me. She finally starts pushing back, and not just against Midas, like literally against everybody who has been mistreating her and words are hard, underestimating her. Thank you. Like all the other saddles and this and that. Those girls are mean. Like, talk about mean girl energy and just bullying. It's like, why would you guys want to live in a golden cage? Like, I don't understand, but that's fine. Girls will be girls and they will just be mean and jealous. But the court is finally starting to notice some of like the cracks in all of Midas's lies, and the power dynamic is fully shifting, which, yes please. But we find out that Rip is not just Rip, he is also King Rot. Interesting twist. So Aurens is like fully trying to understand like how he can be both things. How can he be Rip? How can he be King Rot? all of the lies that were spewed about King Rot like over the years, just trying to like fully understand like where she sits with that knowledge that he is another king as well, and she does not want to be used by another king. But Aurens is finally embracing her full power in this book, and no more backing down to Midas. She is like fully questioning him and embarrassing in front of everybody, and I am here for it. Her magic is insane. It's not just like, boop, touching stuff and completely turning to gold, and so now we just learned so much more about her magic and how much this gross man has just been completely leeching off of her for years. So Rip is also King Rot, which also goes by King Ravager. Okay, this man has like 3 identities, but that's fine. Also find out that Aurens is also Fae, so Rip and Aurens are both Fae, and they're like, oh, wait a second, this is amazing. But he wants her to want her freedom first and not just like pick everybody else over herself. He wants her to pick her first, which really hot. We love a supportive man. Midas officially gets exposed in this book, and you're just like, yes, finally! Everyone is seeing through all of his bullshit. Midas is fully exposed and literally has 0 magic of his own, and you need to have magic in this world to be a king or a queen. And Aurens calls him out in front of absolutely everybody, which, love. She just fully embraces all of her power and all of her anger, and everything that she's just been holding inside of her for over 10 years just completely snaps. We already know how much of a piece of shite Midas is, but we find out the biggest plot twist in this book. Going all the way back to when Aurens was like 12 years old, she figures out, or he reveals, that he secretly stalked her since she was like 12 years old. Like, what a creep. So that was one of her final breaking points. So we find out in this book that he was always just trying to use her. He never loved her, either using her, sadly, you know, as a sex slave, as a saddle, and then he figured out all of her power, and he was like, oh, now I can use her so I could become king and turn everything to gold. Rip and Aurens finally give in to their sexual tension in this book. I will say, out of all the books that I have read, this was probably one of like the longest sex scenes I've ever read. It was like multiple chapters worth, which like I'm here for because of like the slow build between the 2 characters, but also I was like, all right, this is like 5 chapters worth of sex. Like, I think I'm good. She finally kills Midas in this book. He was such a piece of shite that I was like, yes, please. So her full power, her full potential finally just breaks out of her because she is just so heartbroken and just feels so used and underestimated, and just realized that the person that she thought loved her for the past 10 years absolutely did not. So she said, bye bitch, and just, he gone. But this book set up Glow for an amazing revenge arc. My final thoughts on Gleam was Aurens' character development in this book was just chef's kiss. It was so good. Rip in this book, King Ravager, King Rot, every version of him was just delicious. Period. He has very quickly become one of my favorite book boyfriends. Midas finally getting exposed for just like how puny and little of a man he is was just so absolutely satisfying. The slow burn was so worth it. It was so worth it. It was so good. And this series just keeps getting better and better, and you're just learning more and more, and I'm really loving it. So I'm sad that I've only gotten through half of the 4th book, but from what I've read so far in Glow, I'm loving it. I will say, like I said, I'm halfway through, but it is pretty slow in the beginning. There's just so much that needs to be told in this book, like just so much about the characters and all the development, and just a lot of details that are building up, that were building up in the past 3 books. So it makes sense why it's a little bit slow, but I'm still really loving it. So I'm not really gonna talk too much about this book in this video. I'll save it for what I read in March, like my March reads video, because I feel like it's a cheat because I didn't finish it. So I can't say that it's a part of my February reads. But these are the 2.5 books that I read in February. And it just feels so good to be obsessed with the series again. I mean, I reread Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm because I just am so obsessed, obviously, with that series as well. So it's been a lot of fun, like being fully indulged in a book series again, because I feel like it's been a minute. But these are the 2.5 books that I've read in February. But thanks for hanging out with me today and always talking about books. If anybody has any recommendations for another series that I need to start once I'm done with this, because I do feel like I will be pretty sad once I finish this series. So if you know of any series that you think I'll be obsessed with as well, drop them in the comments below. But remember to like and subscribe and come back next time. See ya. Bye.